Welcome to another episode of Debatable with your hosts, Nina and Kyle. I'm Nina.
I'm Kyle.
And for today, we want to go beyond the conversations of debate. And as promised, like a few weeks ago, we're going to talk about the Philippine General Elections. We think that this is an important topic to know, whether you're a debater or not. We think that this is one way we can help in terms of educating people in general about politics, especially in the Philippine context. And we think that overall, this is, well, I have a lot of feelings about it, which is why I want to talk about it.
So, for the next few episodes, we're going to just be talking about the general elections. For this series, we're going to be discussing our own research. We're going to talk about our interviews with other guests. We're actually going to have some on this podcast. Plus, we're going to be talking about our own personal opinions. Nina's speaking as a pol-sci major.
Mm-hmm.
I'm speaking as a law student, which is why I'm probably going to talk about the Constitution here and there.
No. But basically, we think we want to be able to contribute in our little way. Of course, though, there's a lot of things you need to note and a lot of disclaimers before we continue, because we know that this is a rather technical issue. It's a sensitive one as well, so we just want to make certain things clear.
First of all, neither of us have full mastery, nor do we claim to have absolute authority when discussing the matters at hand. We acknowledge our own limitations, because there will always be someone more experienced or more knowledgeable than us. But at the very least, we both feel that we can and we should share what we do know and have learned through our studies and insights and our own research.
The second disclaimer would be that as much as this is a primer, we're pretty sure there's more to discover, especially since this is still an ongoing event. There's still a lot of issues and controversy around it, so we recommend that you take this episode as sort of a guide and complement to your own research. So don't just take everything we say face value, which leads to the last disclaimer.
We're going to be trying to be as objective as possible. But if our own opinions come out, please note that these opinions are purely our own. They don't reflect the views of our school, our organizations, affiliations, etc.
So overview of the series, we plan on having 3 episodes or more. It depends really on what we decide to discuss. So the first would be a general overview of the elections. So what's happening, why is it important? The next episode would be about the campaign, or what we think went wrong. We actually interview several people for this. And then lastly, we're going to talk about possible aftermath. So this last episode is mostly speculation with what Philippine politics may end up looking like due to the results of this election.
We're going to be giving an overview and also a refresher of what's really at stake and what's so special about this election in particular.
Yeah,
But
so,
in general, I think there are some important to know basics before we'll be able to fully grasp the importance of this particular election.
Yeah.
You have the Philippine General Elections. What does that entail?
So it's basically the Philippine midterms. So there are 3 things that are important that we vote for. So first is the 12 seats of Senate, obviously, which is where most of the controversy lies. The second would be all provincial level, city level, and municipal level positions in government. And lastly, all the seats in the House of Representatives. So you could see it as a overturn of all of the other institutions besides the executive branch and the judiciary, basically the legislative branch.
So the thing about the Senate is that it's actually composed of 24 members, but every 3 years you have senatorial election where 12 of them get replaced. So the term lasts for 6 years. The people who the magic 12 are going to be replacing have been sitting in the Senate since 2013, and they're going to be replaced 2019. Every June 30, every 3 years, half of the Senate gets replaced. And the reason for that is because the Senate is a continuing body. So you can't just scrap the entire thing and replace the entire thing. You always need to have remnants of the old Senate in order for you to have this idea of continuity of policy making, etc. And if you notice, a lot of the people who won in this senatorial election was already actually part of the Senate, and that's because senators can be in office for until 2 consecutive terms.
So how many years is that?
Theoretically 12 years.
Yeah.
12 consecutive years. But what's special about this election?
So there's a lot at stake actually, and a lot of my professors, even in UP, say this. So Ramon Siple, for example, executive director of the Institute of Political and Electoral Reform, says that a lot's at stake because it gauges the popularity of Duterte still, and we all know how that turned out. It also may determine the fate of federalism in the country, another very prominent issue, one that has been debated so many times in our community already. It can also, for example, look at power shifts, which is what Dr. Francisco Magnus says when he states that what's at stake is the very essence of democracy, because it determines what future policies are going to look like, what kind of laws and what new culture when it comes to creating policies and creating ideas will happen in our state level institutions, right? So Senate in particular is what we want to focus on, because there's a lot of drama as well in the House of Representatives. There's also a lot of drama in the provincial level, city level, municipal level positions. But I think what's the most important right now would be to talk about the senatorial elections, because in the end, you will end up talking about other politicians as a result. National politics is just a bigger scale version of municipal politics or local governments. So it's very important to understand Senate in order to understand everything else, because everything's interconnected, as we stated in our previous episode about scales.
Yes.
Tie back.
Tie back.
Yeah.
And also, we think that the numbers game is extremely crucial, especially because if you're talking about the Congress, you have the two houses, the House of Representatives and the Senate, and basically both houses need to be in agreement towards a particular policy. So in the past, you had a bunch of policies that were passed in the House of Representatives because the House of Representatives was already controlled by this administration, so Duterte and people who agree with him, PDP Laban, for example. So things like the death penalty passed in the House but was rejected at the Senate.
Yeah.
So the Senate seemed to be a check and balance
to the House of Representatives.
The House of Representatives.
But that might have changed completely now.
Yeah, that might have changed completely. So the numbers game here is very crucial. We're talking about key issues like federalism, or again, a death penalty, the war on drugs, the minimum age of criminal responsibility, how do we demand accountability from Duterte, and the whole thing about impeachment.
Yeah.
Like, if impeachment is ever going to be on the table, you need to have an impartial and independent Congress. Yeah, these types of things. And also, like, the culture thing. Like, let's not forget what kind of strongmanship Duterte is offering. And he's very polarizing as a figure, right?
Yes.
That's your thesis.
Yeah. But basically, what's important, again, to note is it may seem like a list of things that are at stake, but they all boil down to the idea of power and the distribution of that power. And right now, it's kind of skewed. So what we want to do now is discuss really a detail of what has the past few years with Duterte look like, and why are we so scared actually of the next few years to come. So if you've been matter loaded, there's a lot of telltale signs that Duterte is trying to be a populist leader. So the first would be the machismo culture, for example. Like it's very prominent now how Duterte disregards women around him. Like multiple issues, like the rape joke that he made for the nun, for example.
Yeah, the kissing of the
Korean.
Yeah. Korean national.
Mm-hmm. Even his comments to the military that they should shoot women in the vaginas, because that's because it not only was it violent towards women, but it also says that you shoot them there because they are nothing more than their vaginas. So it's like two offenses in one statement, right? Basically, that kind of culture is something that's being promoted, I'd say, or tolerated by Duterte's administration. Even the so-called feminists in government, as of now, just kind of tolerate it. Right? Who was that? Pia Cayetano? Pia Cayetano, who won again. By the way, she's on her second consecutive term already. But basically, it just shows tolerance for it, and that's rather scary. Or another thing to note is the balance of power. Like, just take note of who Duterte has tried to put in jail. Like, obviously, law will try to say it's impartial and that the decisions are justified. But obviously, they're politically motivated. So the arrest of Laila de Lima for some drug lord thing that was made up, that during her hearings, they demanded to see her sex tape for some reason.
Yeah.
Right?
Also, I think it was weird about, well, it's not weird, but just something to note. Right, you had the Magic 12, and they were supposed to replace 12 senators.
Yeah.
Actually, in reality, they're replacing 11. because one of the seats is vacant because Laila is in jail.
Yeah. And that's also interesting to note. Like, you think you have 24 senators right now. You don't. You have 23. But they're going to be 24 again after June 30, right? So you lost one powerful voice in Senate because of Laila de Lima. Let's not forget the impeachment of Sereno, which I think was ridiculous. I'm not sure of the technicalities of the law for that one.
Oh, do you want me to tell you?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so she was impeached through a quo warranto. So a quo warranto is like, as it was applied in Republic of the Philippines versus Sereno, her qualifications were void from the beginning. So her nomination was void from the beginning also.
Because she didn't declare, right?
The sal ends. Yeah, and the legal problem with that is, like, in the Constitution, it says that the Chief Justice may be removed through impeachment. And lots of people interpret that as saying that that's the only way to impeach the Chief Justice. So the Republic said, no, we can use quo warranto because the Constitution uses the word may. So it's not the only choice.
That's annoying.
It's just one of the choices. But, like, if you look at the spirit of the document, it really seems like it should be up to the legislature to conduct impeachment trials. So what the judiciary should have done was to just call out Sereno and then refer her case to the Senate.
That already proves that not only have we lost the House of Representatives, even the judiciary right now is at stake because of what Duterte has allowed to happen. I'm going to get into a discussion later on what I really think Duterte's role in all of this is. Because I don't think he's a mastermind as everyone claims him to be. He's not that genius, really. But that's, again, my opinion. But we'll discuss that later. But basically, like, what Laila and Sereno have proven so far is that, like, no one's safe. Not even Laila and Sereno. Maria Ressa also.
Yeah, Maria Ressa.
Yeah, a lot of powerful women being taken out. Right?
Even non-government. People not in the government are also at risk.
Yeah.
People from the media, ganon.
Like, I remember when Kyle and I were prepping for this episode, like, he noted that it was mostly women being targeted, like Laila, Sereno, Ressa. So he asked me if there was any significance to that. And honestly, I don't think so. I just think it's a coincidence that they were women in power, and Trillanes is actually, like, proof that Duterte doesn't really care if the targets are women or not. Like, people say he's probably just targeting women because they're easier to target. But even Trillanes was a victim of Duterte's politics. Like, he didn't declare something again. What was that? He was challenging...
No.
Oh, okay, explain. What was it?
So the amnesty was void ab initio.
Okay, yeah,
like,
the amnesty.
void from the beginning because he didn't apply for it, I think. Yeah, so if you don't apply for an amnesty, you won't be given it.
Yeah, something. I think we'll probably have to matter load more on that. You probably have to matter load more on that as well. But all of these are important context to understand what's happening. So that's
so what's at stake?
What's at stake. So that's the balance of power right now, and I don't think it's in favor of the opposition. What happened and who are involved? Obviously, we also have to talk about who the senators are. Based on the final 12, and the reason why it took rather long for this episode to be recorded, was because at the time I was writing the initial script, we really didn't even have a Magic 12 yet. Right? There were instances where Bam could have been in there.
Bam was in and then out for a few times.
Yeah, it was a roller coaster, but now for sure he's out. Sadly.
He conceded, right?
Instead, yeah, he already conceded. Instead, we have this mess of 12. You have Cynthia Villar, who topped, actually. I was kind of surprised because I didn't really see much advertisement. I think it's just name recall. Probably name recall, right?
Well, no. Where I live, Cynthia Villar was everywhere.
Oh, okay.
But then again, I live near Daang Hari, so...
right. Daang Hari is the Villar Road.
Yes.
Right. So we have Grace Poe, which at first seemed like a independent individual, hopeful. We were hopeful that she would be a strong opposition, especially when she ran for presidency, right? She was the main contender against Mar Rojas. But even now, she sides with Duterte. She does the fist.
No, she didn't. She didn't do the fist. Yeah,
Oh, she didn't?
Yeah, she didn't. Like, Nancy and Grace didn't do the fist thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I think she's trying to pose herself as an independent.
As independent.
But that wasn't her track record, and I don't know what's this change of values now. Perhaps she's trying to appease to appeal to the opposition, or maybe it's just a strategic thing. We're not
Yeah,
sure.
I think it's a strategic thing where she wants to be at least palatable to people who are in full support of the opposition.
But I think she kind of is a palatable way for us to get a bit of neutrality back in Senate.
Yeah, that's why she won number 2.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
Mm-hmm.
she was never, like, overtly fond of Duterte. I think she just expressed support for him a few times. But
Still support.
But it's not like, I agree with
Yeah.
Duterte, etc.
I mean, I think that's why Grace Poe is a rather polarizing figure when it comes to debates as well. I've had so many Philippine politics debates, and Grace Poe is always an issue. Like, is she for the opposition? Is she pro Duterte? At this point, like, she's playing her cards really well. We're not sure.
Yeah.
Bongo, which I don't even want to talk about Bongo. He just takes selfies all the time. He's basically
Hey, no, he's been working for Duterte for years. So.
yeah, which makes it worse. He's just Duterte's lapdog. What can he contribute to Senate? I'm not sure. My biggest fear is he might just be a yes man. He already is a yes man, but he becomes a bigger yes man now that he has the power to say yes to actual important things, right? We also have Pia Cayetano, which again, fake feminist.
Well, I won't say she's absolutely fake.
Yes, but she's
I would
not
say
doing
that
much.
she's inconsistent.
Inconsistent.
Yeah,
feminist.
so she does pass a lot of, like, pro-women legislation, to be fair to her, but she's still silent with regard to Duterte's rape jokes and misogyny. So what I would say is, it just feels like she's even more fake now.
Yeah.
Because what we see the most is Duterte's misogyny and her silence over it.
Yeah. Next we have Bato.
Isn't it Bato?
Bato? I'm not sure.
Bato?
He's called the Philippine Rock by a lot of the other media outlets outside of the Philippines. Which I can see
Hassan Minaj, right?
Yeah,
Called him The Rock.
Yeah, he called him The Rock. What are his policies? Well, again, given that he's like a policeman. Yeah.
PNP head.
Yeah, he's a policeman. So therefore, a lot of his campaigns are anti-crime. Again, hyping up the war on drugs.
Yeah.
Which obviously worked. But not only that, it also works because a lot of the media covered too much of him. Whether bad publicity or good publicity. Still publicity. Right?
As long as you get name recall, right?
Yeah. Another issue surrounding this senator was his PhD. Right? So many people were like, give him a chance. He has a master's, he has a PhD, he is qualified. So it brought up a debate again about like educational attainment, and does it matter? Like, even online, a lot of ka-DDS post their like CVs just to prove a point that I am pro Duterte, but I'm also very intelligent.
Well, I don't think it should matter. I think it just matters more in light of
Who we
Miriam.
have.
I don't know, like Miriam
Mm.
saying that people are stupid, and she always has this thing about educational attainment.
Yeah, she always has.
So I think our nostalgia for MDS leads us to fixate on the educational attainment, especially for De La Rosa, who keeps saying that he's an idiot in things. But I don't think it's a good precedent at all, because constitutionally speaking, there's a reason why there is no substantive educational requirement in order for you to run or to vote.
Yeah, just the ability to read and write. And
Yeah.
the logic for that isn't even because they have to make sure you're able to make policies. The reason for that is because you have to be able to fill out your candidacy form.
Yes.
Yeah, right. So that's why he's a rather polarizing figure. Not to a lot of debaters, because we all know where we stand when it comes to that. But it's also very interesting to note the controversies and issues that he's managed to bring up, which I think might be interesting debate motions in the future, but I'm not sure. So next, I guess the next person I want to talk about, given the educational attainment issue, is Amy Marcos. Right?
Oof,
So,
Amy Marcos.
so she won, despite lying about everything. And I think people conflate the two. We're not really mad about her lack of educational attainment. It's the
lying,
it's
actually.
the lying. Like, how dare you? Not only are you dumb, but you a liar.
No, and remember what Sara Duterte said? She said that honesty is not the main standard by which we should decide who to vote for. And lots of people thought about Amy because she wasn't completely honest with her credentials. But public office is a public trust.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why it was a very confusing statement to make. But again, the statement was made. We can't do much. I think besides her educational attainment, also important to note the fact that
She's the child of Ferdinand Marcos.
Yes, very important. She's the child of Ferdinand Marcos, which
The most corrupt leader in all of history.
of all of history, really?
Yeah.
Amazing. At least the Philippines has won records and awards for something.
Wow.
So basically, her as well. I think we also have Sonny Angara, which in particular, I don't know where I stand. I'm mostly against him, but
Because of Train?
because of Train. But has he been super pro Duterte these past years? I'm not sure. Has he?
Well,
He's,
not
ano,
overtly, I would say.
He's LDP, right? So basically, he's someone who's also easy to persuade towards Duterte side, which is also rather scary.
You have Francis Tolentino. Coco Pimentel.
Mm.
I think Coco Pimentel ran under PDP Laban. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you have Bong Revilla.
Ano na.
You know what's interesting about Bong Revilla is his name on the ballot was not Revilla. His name on the ballot was Bong Revilla. So right, you put the last name first and then the first name.
Mm-hmm.
But people know him so much as Bong Revilla. So his last name on the ballot was Bong Revilla, Ramon.
Can you do that? Like, change your name to give you an edge in the elections? Because obviously, V comes up a lot sooner in the ballot than R would.
Well, I actually don't think so. Because the general rule is you can only change your name if your name opens you up to ridicule as a child. So there are guidelines.
Oh, really?
Like in the rules of court.
Cool.
Yeah. Because you need to petition to have your name changed.
Yeah.
Except if it's just a typographical or clerical error in the birth certificate. Oh, what am I talking about?
But basically, how does he...
Anyway, that's interesting, but it's not far from the most important thing about him.
Okay.
The most important thing about him is his plunder case.
Yes. The most important case. Sorry. We got carried away with the ballot thing. But yeah, he's a plunderer. We have another corrupt person in office. No surprise.
He was acquitted.
He was acquitted.
He was acquitted because the prosecution was not able to prove that he was the one who signed the documents that acknowledged his possession of the money.
So what does that mean? And why?
So there was definitely money stolen.
Yes.
And the Sandigan Bayan found that there was money stolen.
Mm.
The problem was the Sandigan Bayan wasn't able to find that Bong Revilla himself consented to the plundering.
Mm.
He was saying that his signature was forged by someone else.
Mm.
Yeah. Finally have Nancy Binay.
Another polarizing figure. Like
it's very polarizing for us, actually.
Because at the beginning, no one liked her. She was like everyone hated her for her last name, the associations, and again, I agree, she was a rather sketchy character. But now she's shown some signs of redemption. She didn't raise her fist during the photo op for the new senators. She has been kind of vocal against Duterte once in a while. She has a redemption arc, and I think that's what everyone calls it. But again, I think it's too soon to call. But again, I think she just proves to be someone that can be swayed towards the Duterte side or the side of the opposition. So we'll just have to see how that unravels, right? So those are the Magic 12. Magic because I'm not sure why they're there and why they deserve to be there.
So Magic 12, people they're replacing. So Sonny Angara was there since 2013.
Yeah, so he's a re-electee.
Yeah, re-electee along with Nancy, Coco Pimentel, Grace, and Villar. So the people who are being changed are Bam, JV Ejercito, Cheese Escudero, Gringo Hanasan, Lauren Legarda, and Trillanes. So you have this Magic 12 and they're going to stay here until 2025, June 30, along with, as of now, I think you have Frank Rilon, Joel Villanueva, Tito Soto, Ping Lacson, Dick Gordon, Mig Zubiri, Manny Pacquiao, Kiko Pangilinan, Risa Hontiveros, Win Gatchalian, and Ralph Recto.
Yeah, Ralph Recto. So, given the 24 that we have right now, I think it's a really interesting dynamic because you have dominant Duterte power in the Senate right now with a little sprinkle of independents and perhaps some opposition here and there. But
I think the true opposition is in the other 12 that's gonna last until 2022.
Yeah.
So the 3 people from the Liberal Party. So Frank, Joel, Kiko, Maybe Risa Ontiveros as well.
Yeah, I think...
Even though she's from Akbayan.
Yeah, but she's very vocal against Duterte. And I think at this point, the left parties are more or less in line with the rest of the opposition anyway. Like, Akbayan has also been against Duterte consistently since a particular point in time.
Yeah.
But that's another discussion. But the point is, they are also an important ally that we need to know. So basically, that's the rundown of all the senators that we think are important to note and discuss. Again, do your own research. There's so much more to know about these people. Like, learn about the plunder case, know why people are so angry. Learn more about Bongo. Like, he may be known as a selfie god, but
not really. Oh my god.
but there's also more to his policies that might be rather dangerous in the long run. But again, we're going to discuss those in a future episode.
So in the next episode, we're going to be talking about the campaign. We're going to be talking about what issues might people have had with the opposition's campaign.
Mm-hmm.
As an opposition, what could we do in the future?
Mm-hmm.
In the episode after that, we're going to talk about, again, the possible aftermath.
Yeah.
We're probably going to be discussing whether or not we're doomed.
Yeah,
Because
we're probably also going to insert somewhere there discussion of the elections themselves. Like what happened with Comelec. What happened with all the precincts, what happened with all the machines.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's what you can expect for the next episodes. I'm having a lot of fun. This is something I really like talking about.
I'm having fun as well.
Wow. Because
Just a
you get
little
to
bit.
talk about the laws here and there. Right? So, again, we hope you enjoy. We hope you learn more about this. This is really important, not just for you as a debater, because definitely these are going to be topics you're going to be debating about soon, but also important to know about as a Filipino. If you're not a Filipino and you're listening to this podcast, thank you for making it this far. But I think it's also important to know about the politics of other countries so you can find parallels to your own. So that's it for this episode of Debatable. My name's Nina.
My name's Kyle.
Yes, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.